I'm Luca Giliberti, contributing writer at Gold Derby, joined today by one of Queer Eye's Fab Five, two-time Emmy nominee Bobby Berk, who is the show's interior design expert. First off, congratulations, Bobby, on your and your colleagues' second consecutive Emmy nomination for Best Host. How does it
Thank you.
feel? Yeah, how does it feel
It
to...
feels, sorry.
No, go ahead.
It feels great. It feels great to be recognized for a show that we not only have a lot of fun doing, and that gets to help people, but also gets recognized by the Academy, which obviously is, not the only reason why we do what we do, but in TV, that is the ultimate "you're doing great, hun" thing that you can get. So it feels great. It feels really good to be acknowledged by the Academy and all the members.
Absolutely, and the show is recognized or is nominated for 6 Emmys. So how is it to see not only you guys as hosts nominated, but to see the show, to see the show recognized altogether?
We couldn't do what we do without the absolutely amazing crew that we have, all the way from our showrunner Jen Lane down to our phenomenal PAs. Our PAs who some of which are producers, who some of which started out as PAs on our very first season and who are now producers. So it's been amazing to not only see our journey, but also everyone that works on our show's journey, and how not only the five of us have grown, but the people that support us and make our show really what it is. They've also grown, and to see their successes and to see their Emmy nominations is really cool, because ultimately they're our family too.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll get into some of that later on. But for the fifth season, you all headed to the Philadelphia and New Jersey area. And how important is it to you and your colleagues before you actually start shooting, to get to know the area in which you'll be spending so much time?
So for the Fab Five, we don't really get to know a lot. So the cities that we go to, those are chosen by the man behind the curtain. It's chosen by Scout and ITV and Netflix, and there's a lot of reasoning that goes in behind it. Sometimes we find out just a few weeks before.
Wow.
So it's and we actually kind of like it that way. In the beginning, in the earlier seasons, we found out more. We found out more about the heroes before. We found out more about where we're going before. I found out more about the spaces before. And we found that it kind of caused us to get, for lack of better words, a little lazy. We knew the backstory already. We knew all the problems that our hero was facing, and we didn't engage as much. We didn't ask as many questions because we already knew. And so we already had a plan of how we were going to go in there, and we were going to help. And finally, producers and all of us realized, we're like, you know what? We're actually going to tell you less, because you guys, being who you are and the planners that you are, you're already calculating and figuring out what you need to do to help these people before you get there. And I think our viewers might be missing some of that process, because that process is going on in your head instead of on camera. So now we actually find out as little as possible, because when you see us in that car reading that dossier for the first time, we really are finding out about them for the first time. We might have accidentally seen a picture of them up on the casting board in the office maybe, but that's really all we know about them. So yeah, so we don't find out a lot before, we don't prepare a lot before, and that's on purpose, because we want you as the viewers to actually see it happening in real life, and to be legit.
Yeah, that's incredibly interesting. And it's the perfect segue to my next question, because after this car ride, what we see in an episode of Queer Eye, at least in the fifth season now, is what we see as the audience is how you and the other four meet the hero, mostly in their living and or working space. And you get this initial picture of what their situation looks like. What do you make sure to do, and what do you make sure to avoid when first meeting these heroes and getting that first visual impression of them and what their lives look like?
So I would say the first thing we avoid is anything to do with us being on a TV show. We want the heroes to forget they're on a show, especially now, because most of the heroes have probably seen the show already. It's not like when we filmed season 1 and season 2, the show had never been out. No one knew what we were doing. It was all a surprise to them. So there's never a like, hey, we're going to get that shot again. Or, hey, can you say this? Or, hey, we missed something. Or, hey, the lighting over here is better. Or, hey, my mic's not working. It's a real conversation happening in real time. If the audio is messed up, we'll come back later and we'll voice over it to make sure that the audio is clear. But we never do those things with our heroes because it takes them out of the moment and it reminds them, hey, you're on a TV show. Think about the way you're being perceived. And they put their walls back up a little bit. And it's very hard often for us to get those walls to come down. So to take them out of it, we have learned time and time again, the moment you start talking about, oh, I need to go talk to a producer, that nope, don't do that, because they're out of the moment and we could have lost that conversation forever. The things I look out for, I mean, for me going into a home, there's a lot of telltale signs that I look for to help them with their mental health. And I know that's kind of Karamo's thing, but we use our individual verticals to help each other out. And I can walk into a home and kind of see telltale signs of depression or anxiety by the way their home looks, by the dirty laundry piled everywhere, or the clutter. So those are the things I look for. I start seeing I start reading their tea leaves, but their tea leaves are their dirty clothes and the dishes stacked up in the kitchen sink and the dirt around the house. So I start using their home to kind of give me a window into their soul, into their mind.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that the next step really is trying to get to know these heroes and trying to get to know these people, which is especially important for you since you can't really create someone's living space without knowing who the hero is or who this person is, let alone in such little time. Has it ever happened that someone didn't initially have their walls down and wasn't ready to be vulnerable on screen yet? And what do you do in that situation?
I mean, almost every time. There have been very few times where we walk in and they're just like, take me. They might act like that and they might think in their mind that they're being open like that, but that's usually not the case. So I'm sorry, the question was, how do we get them to do it?
Yeah.
For me, I start talking to them about things that are completely unrelated to design. And I learned that very soon in the beginning of the first season. When I asked them about things about design, they either didn't know because it wasn't something in their wheelhouse. They had never really thought of it before, or they would make something up based on something they had heard before because they didn't want to sound stupid, or they didn't want to sound like they didn't know what they were talking about. So they would kind of make something up, like, oh, I'm into French industrial design. And I'm like, Tom, I don't think you know what that is, dude. And he's like, no, it's just something I heard once. So I just have conversations with them about real things, like, what's your favorite TV show? Where's your dream vacation? Show me your favorite sweater, things like that. And that for me helps them to bring their walls down, because they realize, oh, Bobby's not just going to talk to me about design stuff it's not my wheelhouse and I don't really know. We're just going to talk about cool things that make me happy. And what I don't realize is Bobby is finding out about those things in life that make me happy, because he's going to infuse those into my home to make my home feel like my home.
Yeah, absolutely. And, ultimately what I think this show is really about is embracing change, which can not only be incredibly frightening, but also very dismal in a way, because change can yield a lot of insecurity, a lot of self-doubt, and in the worst cases, even self-loathing. How do you walk that fine line of encouraging change while also making sure that the heroes do not feel ashamed of themselves and the lives they've previously lived?
And I'm glad you asked that question, because it is a very fine line.
Mm-hmm.
It is very hard sometimes for us to point out the things that we see that they need to change and that they need to do differently without them feeling attacked and without us taking away more of their self-esteem by pointing those things out. Often what I use is to tell them stories about situations in my own life that can be comparable, so that they don't realize, so that they realize that it's not just them that has been in this situation. It's not just them who have needed to make changes. We have as well. And we're coming from a place of, we've made those changes in our lives, and now we're here to teach you how we've done that in order to help you. But it doesn't mean that you're any less than, because we've all experienced these things.
Yeah, and you really are ultimately these heroes' mentors. You're the sources of encouragement, and you are the people to whom they and people around the world who actually watch the show look up to. And watching the show almost feels like therapy in a way. But at the same time, you're also just people. So is it ever difficult to be this source of encouragement, to be motivational, when you yourself might be going through a rough time yourself? And how do you navigate or handle these types of situations if they ever arise?
Yes, and yes. there have been, I mean, countless episodes that I just went home and cried. There's been countless episodes where I didn't feel I had the strength to get up that day and go in and keep doing what we do, because it is very emotionally draining. And it's because often when we're helping them, we're going through things on our own, and we kind of have to put that on the back burner because we want to make sure that we show them the love and the attention, the positivity, and everything that we can possibly give them that week. And then by the end of the week, sometimes there's nothing left for yourself. So yeah, it does get hard, and we take those times to really support each other and encourage each other and have those hard talks with one another that help. I keep saying each other and one another, but help us through it. So yeah, we lean on each other a lot.
Oh, that's important, and that's really great. So the episode that has been submitted to Emmy judges to showcase you and your colleagues' work as hosts in the 5th season is Groomer Has It, which is the 2nd episode of the season and centers on Rahanna Gray, an entrepreneur who is trying to get her stalled mobile grooming business back in gear. Could you elaborate on what went into the decision to submit this episode as a showcase for your work in this season, and how was working on this installment in general?
So episode submittals is also something that we don't have anything to do with. But I think I would know why, and not that our other episodes, it's always hard. I know it's for producers and for Netflix and ITV, I know it's always very hard to choose what episode is going to be submitted because they're all our babies and we all love them so much. But, and again, there's not something that's more special about Rihanna than anyone else, but I don't know, I'm all PC. I'm like, they're all our babies. Yeah. But there was just something that really transformed about Rihanna. And, every hero has a transformation, but some of them more so than others. And I think it goes back to kind of what you asked earlier, is the heroes that really come in with their walls down and ready to just soak in whatever we can give them, and there's no pushback. That was Rihanna. She was just at this point in her life and her career that she had just been beaten down. Every time she'd think she was getting ahead in business, her RV would break down, and just one more obstacle after another. And she was just so ready to be like, any advice you can give me, any help you can give me, I am ready for it. I'm ready to soak it in, and I am ready to just run with it. And that's exactly what she did. She took that help that we gave her. And when I say that help that we gave her, I say putting her on a level playing field is so many other people have gotten in their lives that she didn't. And I don't want to make this about race, but it is sometimes. She wasn't able to just walk into a bank and get the loans that she wanted because of the racial inequality in this country. And so to be able to put her on that even playing field that so many other people are, where they can just walk into a bank and get a loan to start their business and go on with their lives, to see her then take that level playing field and have the success that she has had now is just such proof that if everyone is given the same equal chance, they can succeed, And it's just, she's now has multiple mobile grooming units. She has a big team. She opened up her own doggy daycare and hotel. Like, she is thriving. She has a baby now. It's just, so yeah, for me, I think Rihanna is one of our biggest success stories. And I love that. That's why, I think one of the reasons why her episode was chosen.
Oh, that's so great to hear. It was really a very moving
Very
episode.
emotional about her.
Yeah, no, that's really great, and I think that just shows, and it's why it's such a moving episode and such a great episode, really, to watch and to see her story. I think it was one of my favorites for sure, from the 5th season in particular. And since we can't touch on every one of season 5's 10 heroes, just talk me through what some of the highlights of this season were for you, and which I know you filmed ages ago, but what were some of the highlights?
This was literally years ago at this point. Obviously, it goes without saying, Pastor Noah was a very powerful episode, not just for me as an individual, because everyone, I'm sure, that's a fan of the show knows my struggle with religion and the history that I've had with it. So Pastor Noah was a very strong episode. Also Tyreek.
Mhm.
I think Tyreek is another episode that stuck out to me because I was not only able to help him with his home, but also on financial planning and advice. You know, so many people in this country, this goes back to racial inequality again, but like credit scores, you know, he helping him and teaching him about his credit score and what that credit score can do for you or cannot do for you, and that it is something that sadly is a thing that in this country is used to keep poor people poor, but you have to take control of it, and you have to use it as a powerful tool to help yourself instead of to screw yourself. And it's something that I learned at a young age because it was something that was keeping me down and keeping me out from the success that I wanted. And I learned how to take control of it. So long story short, to be able to kind of give him advice on that, and hopefully other people in that situation who have never really thought that it was something they needed to worry about, to then go, actually, wait a minute, this is something they need to worry about. That episode stuck out to me and was special because of just the variety of advice I was able to give.
Oh, absolutely. And with Pastor Noah, I'm sure this is just coincidental, but the fifth season did come out last June, which was during Pride Month. And to have him launch the season, I think was incredibly special. That was, again, such a moving episode.
Great.
And I have to assume that visiting so many different places and getting to know so many different people does ultimately lead to a growth of knowledge and awareness in yourself. So is there anything special that you learned about yourself or just in general while working on the fifth season in Philly or in the Philly area?
You know, I would say one of the things that we've all had to learn, I would say, is comparison. You know, I think growing up our whole lives where, you know, whether it's the kid that's into sports or the kid that's into drama or music, we're taught all of our lives to compare ourselves to others because ultimately somebody, and no matter what we're into, somebody's always the winner and somebody's always not the winner. And you're taught to compare yourself. And when you're on an ensemble cast, no matter how much you love each other and know how much about your brothers, you still compare yourself. And one of the things we've all had to learn is how to let go of this society that you're constantly comparing yourself to everyone's successes and failures and how you're better, or they're better, or you're worse, or they're worse. And it became something that the world was doing to the five of us. And it really started to affect all of our mental health because it wasn't just hearing everyone else compare ourselves to each other. We then started doing it. And we had to really figure out, how do we be on an ensemble cast with 4 other people that we love so dearly, and figure out how we don't compare each other to ourselves, because we're all such unique individuals and we all bring such a unique point of view and something different to all of our categories that there is no comparison. But I think it took a while for us to figure out how to do that and how to wrap our heads around getting that mindset that's been so ingrained into us as a society. So yeah, one of the things I've learned about myself and I've learned from this journey is to not compare yourself to others, because comparison will literally kill you. And it's one of the worst things you can do. Just be your best self. No one can be a better you than you.
Absolutely. It is one of the worst things, yet we all do it in some shape or form, don't we? It is really unhealthy. So that's incredibly interesting. On a final note, production on the 6th season had to initially shut down and be delayed due to the pandemic, of course. But we now know that it's in the works and it'll be taking place in Texas, which is where you were born. What can you tease about this upcoming season, and how has it been working on this show in the middle of a pandemic?
So this season, I would say, might be our best yet.
Oh, wow.
All things just keep getting better, as the song says. And, you know, and I honestly think it had to do with the time that we had off. You know, we had been going. We had done, you know, with Japan, 6 seasons in 3 years. We had done an episode in Australia. We had went on a European press tour. We, as I talked about earlier, it's a huge emotional drain doing this day in and day out. And we had kind of lost touch with ourselves and our families and the people that really kind of recharged us, because after a while we're all so depleted we can't recharge each other. So to have that time off during the pandemic, obviously the pandemic hasn't been a great thing, but to have a year off, we really noticed the difference. I was starting to wonder if I had any emotion left to give. And coming back the very first episode, I think Anthony and I were bawling within the first 5 minutes, and we're like, "Oh, the emotion, it's back! I feel again."
Wow.
You know, so and this year, just I think our heroes, and again, all of our heroes in Philly were amazing as well, but our heroes in Austin this year, they've all been through the pandemic this year as well. They've all been through either loss of their family members or friends or businesses or homes. And so it was just a very emotional season because of the connection, I think, that we all felt through the tragedy that we've all experienced over the last year. And there'll be a Queer Eye first of us coming back and visiting a hero that we had helped before. Because last year, we got through almost an entire episode. We revealed her home, everything. So we left her, when you see us saying goodbye for the last time, that was when we really left her. And then hours later, we found out we were not going to be coming back the next day for work. So we now have a Queer Eye First where we're coming back. We came back to visit her in Austin and see how she's doing now. So it's a Queer Eye First. It was a very emotional, powerful moment, and we can't wait for everyone to see it.
Yeah, we're absolutely looking forward. Well, thank you so much, Bobby, for joining me today, for shedding light on the 5th season and teasing the 6th season. To our viewers, make sure to check out the 5th season of Queer Eye on Netflix if you haven't already, and make sure to click subscribe here before you leave. Thank you so much.
Thank you, love.